Today we're going to be learning how to divide multi-digit numbers using long division. Um, it is a sixth grade standard to know how to do this using long division, so we do have to use this method in order to divide multi-digit numbers in sixth grade. All right, we're going to start off writing that name, class period, and date up here at the top of your note page. When you are done with that, you will fill in our learning target for today, which is I can divide multi-digit numbers. All right, now we're just going to talk about some vocab before we get started. The three words that are involved in a division problem. Okay, so when we have a division problem, we have like a 6 being divided by 3, which equals 2. Okay, and each one of those numbers has a name. All right, so the 6 in this situation is called a dividend. It's the number that's being divided. Okay, so the dividend gets divided by the divisor. I remember that because the divisor is the divider. It's the one doing the dividing. So the dividend is getting divided by the divisor. And the answer to a division problem is called a quotient. Q-U-O-T-I-E-N-T. Okay. Now when we're given a problem like this and we're doing long division, we have to know where to put the two numbers in our division problem because we won't know the answer yet. Okay, so we need to know which one goes inside the division sign, which one goes outside. Our dividend, okay, or that first number listed goes inside the division sign, and our divisor goes on the outside. Okay, now when we're getting our answer, our quotient will end up being up here at the top, our answer. Okay, we show division in two ways. Now I'm sure many of you have seen the division sign being used, so that's when we have like a 63 being divided by 9. Okay, but in sixth grade we will also see division by using a fraction bar. And what that might look like is 63 with a fraction bar over 9. This means the same thing as 63 divided by 9. A fraction bar is division. Okay, and that might not have been something that you learned in elementary school, but in sixth grade we will definitely see fraction bars used as division all the time. Okay. There are some steps to long division, and we have some mnemonic devices or some sayings that we memorize in order to remember those steps. Okay, so there's many different ones you might have learned before. The one that I've learned, I'm going to choose another color, is Dad might smell bad, because I mean, whose dad doesn't smell bad? No, I'm just kidding. But that's the one that I was taught. I know other people have used does McDonald's sell burgers? And if that's easier for you to remember, write that one down. If you have a different one that you've already learned, you can fill that in. You don't have to write dad might smell bad. That's just the one that I know. Okay. So what do those letters stand for? Well, the D, the very first step is to divide. Okay, so we're going to scooch on down to example number 1, and we're going to do each step as we're going. All right, so our very first step before we divide is to place our numbers in the division sign. So we have 432 is our dividend, so that goes inside, and 24 goes on the outside. Okay. Very first step is we're going to divide. How many times can 24 go into 432? That's what this question's asking. So we're seeing how many times 24 can go into the place values. So how many times can 24 go into 4? Well, it can't. 24 is bigger than 4. It can't go in there. So we put a 0 placeholder since it cannot go in there. Then we say how many times can 24 go into 43? We just add on that next place value. 24 can go into 43 one time, because if it went in there twice, it would be 48, and that's too much. Okay, so we do the division. How many times can 24 go into 4? How many times can 24 go into 43? That's that divide step. Okay, the next step is to multiply. And what this means is we're going to take this 1, how many times it goes in, and multiply it by 24, okay, to see how much of this 43 we're taking away. Well, 1 times 24 is 24. Okay, so we're going to multiply. The next step is to subtract. We're going to, oops, I already have an S. All right, so the next step is to subtract 43 minus 24 to take away those 24 to see how many we have left over. Well, we can't take away 4 from 3, so we take from that 4 and make it a 3, make this 3 into a 13. We then have 13 minus 4, which is 9, 3 minus 2, which is 1. This number that we end up with when we take those 24 away should be smaller than what our divisor is. Okay, if it's bigger, that means it could go in another time. So like let's say we got 29 as an answer here. That would mean that this number should not be 1, it should be 2 because 24 could go in there twice. Okay, because there's still 24 that we can take out, if that makes sense. All right, so after we subtract, we are going to bring down, ooh, whoa, what's happening? It's my first time writing with this pen this year. So we are going to bring down the next number. So we took care of the 4, took care of the 3, now we have a 2. We're going to bring down that 2. Okay? And we ask ourselves, how many times can 24 go into 192? Now that might not be mental math for a lot of us. Okay, for me, I don't know right off the top of my head how many times 24 can go into 192. So I'm just going to guess and check. Okay, I'm going to guess like around 7, okay, because 20 times 7 is going to be somewhere near 140, and so 24 times 7 might be somewhere near 190. I don't know. So I'm just going to guess and check. So on the side of my paper, I'm going to do 24 times 7. 7 times 4 is 28. I write my 8, carry my 2. 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 plus, plus 2 is 16. We need 192. We can put 24 more in there. Okay, 168 is a little too low. And if we weren't sure, we could just try the next number up. So since 168 is less than 192, let's try 24 times 8. Okay, let's just try that next one up. Then we'll take 4 times 8, which is 32. Write our 2, carry our 3. 8 times 2, which is 16, 17, 18, 19. And we get 192 exactly. So it goes in there 8 times. And we are going to repeat those steps. So we subtract, multiply 8 times 24. We did that, 192. Subtract, we get a 0 remainder. And there's no numbers left to bring down. We have a 0 remainder. So we are finished. And our answer is 18. Okay, and that is how we do long division. Okay, let's do a couple more examples together. Number 2. Inside the little house, and notice how I'm dropping this down from where the problem is, because if I wrote it up here, I wouldn't be able to write in my answer up here, okay, because the problem's right there. So notice how I'm dropping down the division sign, so it gives me plenty of room to write my answer up here without overlapping other work. All right, we are going to ask ourselves, how many times does 17 go into 2? Well, it can't, it's bigger than it, so that would be a 0. How many times can 17 go into 26? That'll be once. 1 times 17 is 17. So we subtract to see how many are left over. We will get 9. 9 is smaller than 17, so I'm just checking, making sure I'm doing good. I'm doing good. 93. Now again, I might not be sure right off the top of my head how many times 17 can go into 93, so I'm just going to guess and check. My number I'm going to guess and check is 5. I'm going to say maybe 5 times. So I take 7 times 5 is 35. 5 times 1 is 5. 6, 7, 8 gives me 85. All right, that's pretty close, but it might be a little bit more, so let's try 17 times 6, just in case. 7 times 6 is 42, write our 2, carry our 4. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 10, so that's a little high. Okay, so it is going to be 5 times, and 5 times 17 is 85. So we're going to subtract those 85. just checking, is 8 smaller than 17? Yep, so I'm good to go. And I bring down that next number. Notice how I'm drawing these arrows so that I know which numbers I've already brought down and which numbers I haven't. If I don't draw those arrows, I might forget if I brought down this 3 yet, or if I brought down that 5 already. So that's why I do the arrows, because it makes it super simple to know that. And here we're at 85 again, and we just found out that 17 times 5 is 85. So we're going to have another 5. When we take away those 85, we are left with 0. We have no more numbers left. So our answer, I'm just going to write it up here, is 155. All right. Okay, so now that we've worked through 2 examples together, I want you to pause the video and I want you to try number 3 on your own. Okay, when you finish it on your paper, or maybe even when you get to a step where you're stuck, then you can resume it. But I want you to try it on your own, because we learn math through making mistakes. Okay, so if we don't try on our own, we don't ever know if we can do it by ourselves, or if only when the teacher's showing us how to do it. So I want you to try this one on your own. So pause the video and then just resume the video. Play the video when you are done to check your answer. Okay. All right, so if we are watching now, we should already have this problem completed on our paper, and we're just checking our answer. So I'm going to move through this a little bit quicker. We are dividing 4,095 by 13. We say, how many times can 13 go into 4? 0. How many times can 13 go into 40? That's going to be like 3 times, because I know 13 times 3 is 39, which is super close to 40. We subtract, we get 1 left. Okay, is 1 smaller than 13? Yep, so I'm good to go. Bring down my 9. How many times can 13 go into 9? Just once. 1 times 13 is 13, so we subtract 13. We're left with 6. Bring down that 5. How many times can 13 go into 5? I'm not sure. I'm going to take a guess that it's 5 times, but I'm going to just show my work to make sure. 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 1 is 6. I get 65 exactly. I have a 0 remainder and no numbers left. So my answer for number 3. Oops, I forgot to write my 5. I got so carried away that 13 times 5 is 65, so my answer should be 315. Notice how once I got that answer, I said, oh, 31, that does not sound right. Okay, so I noticed that I made a mistake. So always reason with your answer and make sure, does that sound right? Does that make sense? Okay, and 31 did not make sense to me, so I knew that I had left a number off. Okay, so you should be doing that as well. Now, for this example, I do not want you to do this ahead of time. You could start the division, and then when you get a remainder, then follow along with the video so that you know what to do, but this is not something that you have been taught yet. Okay, so we're going to set up that division problem, 6,096 being divided by 30. We ask ourselves, how many times can 30 go into 6? 0. How many times can 30 go into 60? 2 times, because 2 times 30 is 60 evenly. So we subtract and we get 0 left. Bring down our 9. How many times can 30 go into 9? It cannot, so we have to put a 0 and bring down our 6. Okay, then we ask ourselves, how many times can 30 go into 96? Well, I know 30 twice is 60. 33 times is 90. So 30 times 3 is 90. That's as close as we're going to get to 96. So we are going to subtract 90. We have 6 left over, and we're out of numbers to bring down. Okay, oops, I forgot to write my 3 up here. I always forget to do that. All right, so now I have 203 is my answer, with 6 remaining out of the 30 that we needed. Okay, so at this time in 6th grade, we're going to learn how to write this as a fraction. Okay, so my whole times at 30, my whole number of times that 30 can go into 6,096 is 203. So in my answer, 203 is going to be my whole number. Okay, but then I have 6 left over out of the 30 that I needed. So I'm going to write that as a fraction. I have 6 left over out of the 30 that I needed to make another whole group. Okay, now we do have to simplify this fraction. This 6 and this 30 can be simplified. Both of those numbers can be divided by 6. We get 203 and 1/5 is our final answer. All right, we just have one more problem left, a word problem. And this one is going to have a remainder as well, but we'll see how that works out. A 301-foot high swing at an amusement park can take 64 people on each ride. A total of 8,983 people ride the swing today. All of the rides are full except the last ride. How many rides were given? How many people were on the last ride? All right, so right away we have some not important information. It is just extra information used to confuse you. Okay, and what I want you to do is cross off that information on your paper. So a 301-foot high swing, it does not matter how high that swing is because it has nothing to do with how many people are on those rides. All right, but then we also have some important information, okay, such as 64 people can go on a ride, and they had a total of 8,983 people ride for the day. Okay, so we are asking how many times does 64 fit into 8,983? When we're asking how many times something fits in or how many times it goes in, we are dividing. Okay, and I'm actually gonna move it over to the side of my paper so that we leave some room for in case we have to show multiplication. We are doing the division problem 8,983 being divided by 64. Okay, how many times does 64 go in there? So 64 is our divisor on the outside. On the inside, we have 8,983. All right. If you'd like at this time to pause the video until you get to the remainder to resume, you can. If you want to pause the video, try it all by yourself, you absolutely can. Just resume to check your work. If you don't feel comfortable yet, you can just follow along with me. How many times does 64 go into 8? It cannot. How many times does 64 go into 89? It can only go in there once. 1 times 64 is 64. And we subtract. 9 minus 4 is 5. 8 minus 6 is 2. 25 is smaller than 64, so we are good to go. Then we want to know how many times does 64 go into 258. Honestly, I'm not sure. So I'm going to guess like 4 times. So I'm going to do 64 times 4. 4 times 4 is 16. 6 times 4 is 24, plus 1 is 25. Nice, I guessed real close that time. All right, so it's going to be 4 times because that's 256, and that's really close. And we subtract, we're left with 2. Bring down that 3. How many times does 64 go into 23? Well, it can't, so 0. And we have no more numbers to bring down. Okay, so we have our quotient, our remainder, and our divisor. Okay, so the way that we would write this answer is 140 and 23/64. Okay, but 23/64 of a person doesn't really help us out. All right, because the question asked how many rides are given. So how many full rides are given? Well, this 140 is how many full rides, but they want to know how many rides are total. They also had a partial ride. So this is kind of a trick question because it would be 141 rides were given. Okay, because there was 140 full rides and then this partial ride too, because they still took those people on the ride. So that would be 141 rides. All right, and then they wanted to know how many people were on that last ride, which would be that partial ride, and there was 23 out of the 64 people. So that would be 23 people on the last ride. Okay. That's it. That's how we divide using long division. All right, so now we're going to take some time in class to practice. Down here, I would like you to write your summary. Okay, try to aim for like 3 sentences. Today I learned how to use long division. Today I reviewed how to do long division. I got stuck when we had to guess and check for multiplication. I can remember how to divide using long division, using dad might smell bad. Any of that kind of information that kind of summarizes what we talked about today will be perfect. Okay, so try to aim for like 3 sentences, and then you can move on to the activity in class.